Hi, I'm Alessio Cavatore, and I'm a great fan of Rockroar.
Soy Alberto Martín de Mantic Games y somos fans de Rockroar.
Bienvenido Wargamer, aquí Rockroar desde los estudios centrales FIL. Aquí tenéis la segunda conferencia que grabamos en el Mantic Open Day. Ese día se celebraron 4 conferencias. Nosotros grabamos la primera y la última, y aquí la hemos montado para que vosotros las veáis. En esta conferencia, tanto Ronnie como Jack de Mantic Games y Tommy de Golden Painting Studio se dedicarán a responder y a hablar sobre The Artpad. Principalmente es el tema que van a tratar a lo largo de todo el vídeo. Os aconsejo que veáis el vídeo anterior si queréis ver un poquito el espectro amplio de las conferencias, ya que ver la primera y la última os da un abanico y la evolución de las preguntas y los temas durante el día. Así que, desplegamos. Hi, we are here with Ronnie Renton, and I know he's a great fan of mine, so I brought him our t-shirt. You can see it here. There it is. A fan of rock on you, yes. So Ronnie Renton, that's for you.
Thank you, that's me. And I'm Ronnie Renton of Mantic Games. I'm a great fan of Rock.
Okay. That's
Thank
good.
you very much.
Cheers.
Box games, and I think what we do with Pandora will kind of come out of that. And I've got the stuff I want to do, but how we do it, we'll learn in the process of doing everything else what the best way forward is for to do things with Pandora. Anything else? Any more questions?
When are we expecting to see the Plague Army, or even concept art for the army?
For the army for Warpath or for the team for Dreadball?
Warpath.
Warpath. Sorry, yes, we'll be able to look. Warpath, I'm not quite sure because there are some early concepts already, and I've seen those. I'm not quite sure whether they're final ones that Ronnie's happy with. They next year we'll probably be doing a Kickstarter to do some Warpath vehicles, big stuff, big straight line stuff. So you've got vehicles, planes, all sorts of big chunky things, and they might well come out as part of that to do the Plague and the Zor armies, because they've the concepts that we did for Dreadball for the Zor have gone down really well, and we will be doing some Plague stuff with Dreadball if we get far enough into the 4th iteration, which is Dreadball Extreme, because that will have Plague in there, so that's where they'll turn up in Dreadball. But yes, not quite sure. It'll probably be middle of next year-ish, I think, before we start seeing much of the Plague for Warpath. Any more? Who's next?
Warpath unreleased arms.
Yeah.
Is there currently a definite outline for what the rebels are going to be? Or are you just going to see what's popular with Dreadball? So we'll make an army.
Well, I think the rebel army has always been a mixed army. It's always been the disenfranchised remnants of peoples that have been stomped all over by the corporation and aren't happy about that. And they're sort of band together and fight back. So whilst it may have a core of humans, or to give you a sort of framework, then it's always been intended that it will have numerous other alien races within it.
Angry corner shop owners.
Angry corner shop owners, very angry.
Have they already predefined? Does that have
No.
an effect on the races you're using for Dreadball?
All the races I used in Dreadball that aren't already Warpath races are made up. So what will happen now is, now I've made them up, now we've got concepts for them, now people go, oh, we really like John Doe, for example. I go, well, that didn't exist, the Drid one didn't exist, I made all that stuff up for Dreadball. So now we've got them within the universe, you can say, oh, actually, well, they'll make really good, troopers in a rebel army. So what? I was going to say, you'll see the Dreadball ones will feed into the rebel army, but then there'll be more of them. I'm sure we'll get all sorts of things. Sorry,
I
Tom.
was going to say, as Jake said in the earlier seminar as well, the Warpath universe and the Dreadball universe is really, really young, and it's very much a blank sheet as well. You know, and to insert all them races into a small game first and develop the character in that personal way. You know, because it is about people as opposed to armies. It's less about individuals when it's about armies. When you start developing the character and how they interact with each other in a small scale, in a very human world, it's easier then to expand it out into a bigger fight as well. So it's an organic process as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I think as I said, the idea of the rebels has always been they're a mixed bag of disenfranchised peoples, and that was it. That's kind of we'll work out that it's several armies down the line. We'll worry about the details a bit closer. We'll get some concept done, whenever we get to it. And because we've done Dreadball in the gap between when it was concepted as one sentence and when it gets to be doing the proper concepts, suddenly we've got John Doe, we've got his mates, we've got the Jodwan, we've got other races. We can then go, oh, actually, well, they're pretty cool. People like that. There's no reason why we can't do warrior versions of them. And so they start filling out something that just hadn't really even been looked at yet. Just hadn't really got to that point yet. So yeah, and I think because the way I write the background for teams and MVPs, it has to tell a strong characterful story in a very short space. So that gives you basically a lot of seeds to then take and expand in the mainstream sort of Warpath background. And I'm sure that guys writing that will run with a whole bunch of it and see what we get to.
The exciting thing for me about all that is as well, a lot of them seeds will come from playing games and campaigns and all those guys across the board feeding off each other and bouncing back off each other. Very much and other people do in the past.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the races we've got. I come up with the original concept for this, and then you go, well, John Doe, for example, was an MVP. He wasn't originally intended to be a team. Neither was the Jidwan was supposed to be a team. He was Nico was an individual MVP, and we got the concept art, and I started tinkering around, and having written the stuff about how they work, I sort of thought, actually, well, that might make more than just one team. And I like the concept, and it's all kind of looking quite good. So maybe we'll do a team of them. And I wanted to make the teams I wanted to include as many weird and wonderful alien teams as possible in Dreadball. About 50-50 is what we're going to get when you get the set of 12, which will be the first 3 sets of Dreadball, as it were. The first 3 parts of Dreadball will have 4 teams in each, and then Extreme at the end will work very differently with teams. But the sort of normal, as it were, the normal science fiction, the normal fictional things, orcs, Forge Fathers, that kind of thing. There's about 6 of those, and then 6 Jodwan, John Doe, the Z, Terraton that you don't know yet because you haven't seen, but I haven't even seen concepts of Terraton. But other alien races that will make things, or other very non-human races that will all play quite differently and give you much more of a breadth of different styles and different looks. Because it's all very well doing the safe ones, and you have to do the safe ones. You have to do the safe and ones that everybody recognises, because otherwise people don't feel comfortable.
It's good practice as well, isn't it?
It gives you a good reference.
Learn all them lessons as well in the development, and then when you apply it to the really exciting, really original stuff, actually, not only you've got something original, you've got something original executed with skill and knowledge and experience.
And you've got a reference point to bounce it off. If you've got no reference point, you go, we're going to do the Ghibli gas aliens from NID. You go, right, okay. And they're like, and they do this. And they go, okay, what's that? How does that, is that good? I have no idea. I've got no reference point. So you start off with humans, and you go, right, humans do this because we've all met humans. And, well, I'm assuming. Okay, I'm assuming. Let's just assume we've all met humans. And whereas we haven't all met orcs, and we haven't all met Ghibli gas aliens from NID, probably. But what it means is you get a reference point. People go, oh, humans are boring. Why do that? You go, well, if you don't do that, if you don't have a reference point, then how do you know orcs are strong? How do you know the Ghibli gas aliens from NID are whatever they are?
Smell it.
Ghibli. giblets. Yeah, you know. But you wouldn't know because you wouldn't have a reference point from which to say they're different. You know, they're different from humans because. So you've got to start with the safe ones. But then, as I said, I've been trying to get as much weird and wonderful, wacky stuff and as many kind of, you know, bizarre alien races in as possible. But I just think that makes for a really cool set of models and a very entertaining game. You know, because we've got people who, you know, teams that are only strikers, teams that are only jacks. What the last team, if we get there, which I hope we do, is going to be teleporters. I really hope we get there, and I want to see Tommy paint one in the process. It's going to be fun. Yeah, so that, you know, there's all sorts of really cool stuff. But we got to get there, and if the first one we done with teleporters, you go, oh, it's a game about teleporters. Then you wouldn't go, that's weird. You'd go, oh, it's just a game about teleporting. That's a bit odd, but you know, hey. So yes. Started normal, gone increase as wacky as I can push Ronnie into doing. There's been a couple of things that have been a bit more than he could cope with, but hopefully we might get them back in Extreme, because Extreme's got a very different system for doing teams. In the first three, in Dreadball, in Season 2, and in Dreadball Ultimate Dreadball, this is the official, the sanctioned, the fancy, multiple sponsored, big glossy arena, high tech, shiny version of Dreadball. FIFA. This is FIFA. This is Bernie Ecclestone's Formula One. It's all very organised and very much rigid, and this is how you do it. And it's lots of money, and it's, you know, it's kind of like, in some ways, it's also the sort of razzmatazz of the World Wrestling Federation and all of this kind of show business. That's those three sets.
So absolutely no corruption whatsoever.
No corruption whatsoever, none at all. And then you get the equivalent of the sort of Fight Club, illegal boxing, bricktops organisation. All of that kind of stuff is Dreadball Extreme. It's the illegal one. It's the unsanctioned version. It's the version where they don't have referees because that's boring, and they just carry on fouling as much as they like. They ain't got very little money. They've got no proper gear. And they've not got proper medical attention and all the rest of it, and it's illegal. So you don't get a team in the same way that you get a team.
That's the interesting thing about it, because this is my understanding of it so far. By the way, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
With the legal side of it, all the teams generally, they're kind of press ganged into it. They're kind of there against the will a little bit, aren't they?
Well, it depends. It's like Freshly the Clown said. You know, they came up with you know, truckloads of money, and you know, what could I do when I was only human? So
yeah, exactly right.
They're there because they're being paid to be there, or they're being mind controlled if there's
exactly right. You know, like the
bread in vats or whatever they might be. Depends on
vermin that may or may not exist.
Yeah,
they may or may not.
May or may not really be vermin.
Yeah, they might not be there of their own volitions.
No.
But then when you start to apply that to a more seedy and violent underground, then I think you create a real grisly atmosphere across the board.
A bit more nasty.
You know what I mean?
We're getting pitched for that, right? With jumpers for goalposts.
Not the first person to say that today. No, what will
goalposts?
Hey, 7 heads for goalposts. That's much more intriguing. Yeah, what we'll get there'll be effectively 3 pitches in the whole of the game. There'll be the pitch you've seen in the other room, the normal official sanctioned 2-team Dreadball. There'll be in Ultimate. There's an expansion to that, which is what I've drawn on the board over there, where you get the central hex piece, and then you get 6 half pitches off the sides.
I think 3 on Kickstarter, isn't it?
Sorry?
3 on Kickstarter, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that will be its own board in terms of a cardboard board. Yeah, so that will be a cardboard board that will be absolutely ginormous. And in terms of the MDF and the acrylic boards, we'll do a middle piece, and then you'll get and it will fit the other edges, the ends of the existing MDF pieces. So we won't have to do the MDF pieces again. And if you'll have one of the MDF pieces, you'll be able to do, you know, add it to that and then just put it back and play a normal 2-player game and so on.
It would be very good to play 3.
It would be very, very good to play 3. But this will let you play 6-player games. Someone's going to write some rules for that. That's going to be, and that's going to be absolutely mental. But it'll be quite a different game. And then the third pitch is the jumpers for goalposts one. Because we're playing, because Extreme is played illegally, they're playing it in a disused warehouse. They're playing it in somewhere they don't think the DGB police are going to find them in, the 90 minutes they take to play. So we're looking at something where it's perhaps not being cleared out properly. So there's bits of things on the pitch. There's crates, there's barrels, there's stuff on the pitch in the way. There may be traps or booby traps or dangerous bits of it. There may be all sorts of things, and it may not be the same shape every time. So it'll be a gridded area that may or may not be quite the same proportions each time. So that should be quite mutable, and it'll be a very different kind of game. And you're playing with people who are hired on for that game. They're not a team that's there all the time. What you have is you invest the character. If you think of the Dreadball, normally, the official Dreadball, the character of the team is a sort of nebulous quality that belongs to the team as a whole. If you don't have a team of permanent players, where's that character come from? Where does the flavour of that team belong? And it belongs in the money man, the backer, who organises it. So you have different backers, and you have a pool of players they can draw from, and each of the backers has certain people he knows, certain influence he's got, certain people he can draw from. So the mad scientist bioengineer backer can draw on mutants and the plague characters, for example. The alien ambassador backer can get all sorts of weird and wonderful different aliens. He'll get them cheap and he'll get them easily, but if he wants to get plague, they'll be expensive. The prison governor can get convicts of all manner of shapes and sizes and just press getting them into being there. But if he wants an alien, that'll be really difficult for him to get there. But so you get to choose what kind of combination of teams, and the backer gets better and he gets more money and he gets more influence. Then you can get other players. So instead of the player getting better, the backer gets able to get better players. If you see what I mean. So your ability to your team, as it were, that you field gets better in a different way. Yeah?
You get shot and replaced.
Yeah, well at the end of it, you don't care about the casualties because you're going to hire someone else. And you may hire Plague Type 1 player, and you play a game and he gets killed, so you just hire another one next time. Because there's always people to hire. So it means that your models that you buy, you don't need to go and buy a new set of models because the guys have been killed. If you're playing with the same kind of player, he's a big convict, he's a plague, he's an alien, whatever. So it allows you to keep the same physical models. It allows you to build up and experience the team. It gives you a very different dynamic to the way the game plays. It also makes the game in play much more vicious because you're not bothered about keeping the individual alive. There's no referees, there's no medical equipment, and the fouling doesn't get stopped. So the fouls make everything rather more dangerous as well. Because one of the reasons fouls are in place is because it makes it safer to play. If you don't let people do that, are you all right?
I've got a bit of a cold.
So many information for that guy.
Too much information on that. Too much Dreadball goodness. Does anyone else want to risk their health?
So are there going to be some rules, say, in the extreme, like midfielders teams, say guards and just wiping everyone out?
Well, the thing about the guards, well, you think so, but it's very, very hard. If you want to field that, you could try. I don't think I want to stop people doing that. There will be limitations based on the kind of backer you are, because you'll get certain groups of people that you have access to, whether it's aliens or convicts, will be more or less good at different things. So you'll get a character, the core character for the backer, based on what you have easy access to. So it may be that you have lots of different guard variants or what have you, and you decide to just go with that, and then try and kill everybody before they score lots of points. May work, may not work. Let me know. Let me know how it goes. But that kind of thing is a perfectly valid tactic. But apart from the fact you'd have to buy new toy soldiers, you could then the next game go, well, that was a load of rubbish. That didn't work. Well, I'll hire these guys instead. I'll have a mixture this time, or I'll have just strikers instead.
Yeah.
So you can adapt your team much more quickly. But as I said, if you said, for example, if the convict team was mostly fighty guys, which would kind of make sense, then you can't change to completely strikers very easily. Although you could theoretically hire a good one to play, they'll be very expensive, and you might not be able to afford enough players and all that stuff.
So the extremes basically only fit into a particular niche. Essentially, they're only working against particular teams.
Well, and this time I think you might do a similar thing because you did quite well last time. So I'll take this and that, and then of course you take just strikers and kind of straight. But so yes, it'll be a lot more mutable. There'll be some different dynamics going. Sorry,
is the intention to do models for the backers?
Yes. Oh yes. I have some particular concepts I want done. But yes, with season 2, we're going to do coaches, and coaches. Not quite nailed down exactly how coaches are going to affect the game, but they will affect the game. So you'll have a coach model, and having a coach model or not having a coach model will make a difference to how the game plays. And the same with backers. Like you want a backer model because the backer becomes such a central, sort of pivotal point about how the character of your team works. You really want a visual representation of him, and he'll do something because he's this kind of character. He will have the effects on how you hire a team. He'll also have some sort of in-game effect like a coach would. Yeah?
Bionic laser.
Don't tell them that yet. And we had another question over there.
Yeah. Given the apparent sort of modest success of the Dreadful Kickstarter at the moment, where would you like to see Dreadful go beyond Dreadful Extreme?
I don't know. I think someone asked something very similar this morning, and I think the thing about it is you don't want to keep putting things on top because you over-egg the pudding, and you take something that is slick and clear and works really well, and you put too much stuff in and it just bogs down and slows up and stops working properly. And we've all seen that in various different games over the years, and it's something to be aware of and to avoid. I think what I'm expecting is that when it goes live and everyone's got the copy and they're playing it, and sort of there's a lot more, there's a lot of excitement on the internet now, and people are setting up, league sites and all sorts of stuff, but they haven't got it and they're not playing it. 3 months, 6 months after they've all started playing it, I think what we'll find is there'll be a natural direction it will want to go. And so we could do more with Extreme. And you can always do another team, another MVP, you can always do that. It's just, I don't think that's a valid way of going because you should clog the whole thing up.
Would you rather then maybe hold back and just let it organically grow into a massive community?
I'm very keen on having the community. One of the things I used to do when I worked for Workshop is I was what called game producer for a year, and I worked with Blood Bowl among other things. And what was nice about that was the community kind of ran itself, and it ran itself because they were just passionate people. They really just loved the whole thing, and they would do stuff because they loved it. And actually, they still do. And I think that's what was attractive about that community, and that's why going to a Blood Bowl tournament was different from going to a Warhammer tournament or a 40k tournament, because the people kind of had a different vibe to them. And I think that if you could generate that with Dreadful, I would just love that. It's not commercially good for me. It doesn't make any difference to me in terms, but it's lovely to be in. It's lovely to see people with that much passion doing stuff. And I think we need to leave some room for that to happen. Workshop, I think, had it completely wrong, just abandoning them. I think that's insane. But I think what you need to do is you need to leave people some space to do this kind of stuff in. Because if you crowd, people are very used to the idea of official stuff. There is one way of doing things. It's official. We say it's right, so do it this way. And if they don't like that, they just don't do it. They don't go, I'll do it my own way. They go, oh, it's not official, I can't do it. So then you need to leave people some space to get on with it and just run with it and do what they want. Run tournaments, run leagues, do stuff. But at the same time, be standing there saying, you know, is there anything you need? You guys okay with this? You know, we'll do an app to help run tournaments. We'll do, you know, some software online, whatever it might be. You know, how can we help get you? You know, you want some stuff for, you know, prizes or whatever. Yeah, we'll do all that. And I think to keep. That could be a little bit more embarrassing.
The other good thing about that is on top of giving people what they want, sometimes we can be challenged back. And what that creates is interesting opportunities to be creative, you know, and create new things. You know, like we have the 4 major first teams come out. We've got the 4 major colours. There's another 8.
Yeah, another 8 teams coming.
Oh, there's 8 original colours.
Yeah.
Well, how many colours is there? Do you know what I mean? I can sing a rainbow, but I'm not going to get them all out there originally, or am I? That's the question, you know, and you guys are going to help feed all that as well, you know, and challenge it, you know, and that's the bit, because I'd love a challenge, you know, without a doubt. I mean, like, how do I get 2 teams, essentially, the Midgard Elders and the Trontec 29ers, how do I get blue in both of them, yet keep them so different? Well, actually, we'll make blue a spot. We'll just keep it on the helmet so the focus can be there. And because we want this clean sci-fi feel, and we can all be in sterile silvers and what have you. You know, and that we began to create the character along with that as well. You know, so even the colours can influence the background, and the background can influence the colours, and it all goes backwards and forwards all the time. And that comes from being challenged as well. And that little bit of space can create that challenge, and sometimes this constraint can create that as well.
Yeah, and people will go away and they will make up team colours and they will do all sorts of cool stuff. I mean, we had this within hours of the Joke One art going up, somebody had done a 3D render, and you go, oh, that's gorgeous, that's really good, and it's taken you, you know, time it took me to feed the cats, you know. That's like, you're quite good at that, aren't you? But what I mean is, people would go and, you know, and the guy's done. He's now done a robot, and he's done some. I think apparently he's done a Zor as well. But he's just running off and doing that, and you go, okay, that's really cool. You know, what else are people going to do if they've had more than 4 hours to do it in? You know, I mean, if people have 3 months to do something, what are they going to come up with? I would imagine people will be doing what they usually do, which is somebody will write some software for a league, somebody, you know, will get loads of colour schemes up, we'll get all sorts of things, and we can go, oh, I hadn't thought of doing it like that, that would be brilliant.
Awesome.
Army build would be awesome, yeah.
Does that create a challenge for you, though, in terms of your release schedule? Because you need to give people enough time to react to the thing you've just released, see where they take it, and take feedback to what you're going to do next. Because what you don't want to do is rush out suddenly, this time next year, all 4 seasons are out, and you've kind of, that's it, your shotgun approach. It's like, right, now what do we do? We've given everyone everything. Where do we take it? Do you need to stagger it?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, you've got to remember that the people who play people who play this year, people who play next year aren't the only people who are going to play. So in 5 years, when someone comes to us, there will be all 12 teams out, and Extreme will be out, and so on. So it's got to work in both contexts. It's got to work for people who just start out out of the box 4 teams in. It's got to work for somebody when they come at it into 3 years, 5 years time, and they've got 12 teams and Extreme and all the other things, and, you know, 50 MVPs to play with. And there's leagues all over the place, and there's loads, you know, there's loads of things going on the internet, and there's tournaments, and, you know, it's a very different scene. So it's trying to build in the facilitating mechanisms within the game that it will allow it to be run in different ways in tournaments and so on. And I think because I'm expecting it to be here in 5 years and 10 years time, and dealing with it as a sort of as a whole, I'm not concerned about releasing it too quickly, because I think that there's a limit to how quickly you can do it practically, and I think that's enough of a limit to be already imposed. See what I mean?
The other good thing about something like that is you're growing the hobby in the community as well with fantastic product to use that to, you know, and that's gonna feed back into that as well. There's going to be more people out there, you know, the better things get, the more things grow. And ultimately, that's what we're all about. You know, even as a painter, you know, you know, when I do, I enjoy it. But I still understand that it needs to be grown across the board and just keep pushing and growing the entire hobby in the community. You know, so timescales, to a degree, they're important. But I still always consider the fact there's always new people coming in. You know, there's always new people coming in. People will go away, people will come back, and you can't worry about it too much.
You give them a hard time. Don't take any cheese.
Just in case anybody doesn't know, this is Ronnie. He's turned over late.
Sorry about that. Apologies, everybody. I was hoodwinked for a podcast.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Good.
Anyway, yes. So the answer is in terms of timescale, I'm not really concerned because I think there's always going to be people coming into it different stages, and so I think we're excited. We've got loads of stuff that we've said we'll do on the Kickstarter, and I think, you know, if we've got the opportunity and the wherewithal to do it, let's just get it done. The only restriction I would have is I want to do it slowly enough so I can play test the stuff so it works. You know, because I think that what we've got is really solid, and I don't want to mess that up by doing something else like I did next time.
And on that note, we are going to be going into a period of now we've got 8 new teams to play at Dreadball. Those that are interested in play testing, either because you live quite locally or because you're a psycho that wants to drive up from 4 in the morning, we will be running some play test days for Dreadball and for Warpath over the next 3 to 4 months. The usual, there's 2 types. Generally, we'll occasionally be doing a day here, where you come here on a Saturday and we'll just play all day. Play 4 or 5 different teams in different ways. We're looking for balance and so on and so forth. We're also happy, Jake will send out rule sets to clubs. So if there's 4 or 5 of you in an area that want to sit down and play test and play, we let the rules go out, and you have to make do with you. If you come here, you might get to see the models and play with them, and if it's out there, you've got less chance. But yeah, because it's really important to us, and we had a fantastic day when we first play tested Dreadball.
That was really quite flattering actually, because I said to a whole bunch of people, I want you to come in on your, give me a whole Saturday. I want you to come in, and we're going to play a new game, and I'm not going to tell you anything else. You're going to have to trust me. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a board game, and it's going to be cool.
And you have to sign an NDA before you.
And you have to sign an NDA before I'm going to even talk to you. And everyone went, oh yeah, let's go. Let's
do that. That's
great.
fun.
Yeah, whatever. You know.
What are you going to do? Good idea. Have a drive all the way across the country. And
people did. Yeah, people drove. People drove miles, and they came and we said
wouldn't go home at the end of the day.
They said they wouldn't go away.
Yeah, we want to play more. We're not leaving until we play it again.
It's one of the.
I'm going to go to sleep now. No, we won't play again.
When helped out that one game in Project Pandora, that was one of the most passionate moments of my life. Essentially, you know, I know. I utterly got into it because you're feeding back into the community, you're feeding back to yourself by feeding to us, creatively. It's just a good thing. So I think get involved where you can. It was really good. Help Mantic, what's the help you that? Oh, you're helping.
Well, there's a couple of people there. Matt was there. Pete was there.
Yeah.
This is Julian and Samantha, who in our Kings of War Kickstarter took out the top pledge.
Oh wow.
So they're going to be immortalised as the Archangels leading the army of the Celestials.
What your ninja's going to look like.
Yeah. so yeah, he's looking at
I'll pretty it all up.
He's a very good painter, isn't he?
Yeah, he can do anything. Yeah.
Samantha's model will be fine. I think we're going to learn a bit more about Julian's. But so it's really nice, and we were just. I was doing that podcast, and the guy was talking to me. I said, for us as a small company, to be able to know that we are able to just get on with season 2 and season 3 and get them sculpted and get them made, it's phenomenal for the gaming system. It's phenomenal for the confidence that our retailers can have that they can stock it, and although it's a sweet deal, people are taking a risk. Yeah, the gamers.
And the gamers, because when you buy into a game and people go, "Oh, this is going to be great,"
every single game is going to be great.
Yeah, everybody says their game's going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and it's there's loads and loads of stuff comes out all the time, and some of it just fizzles and dies. And you get what for me is the best thing about the Kickstarter is it says we've got the money to do this. We know it's safe. You buy into this now, and you know that this is coming out. It's not just going to come out and then be forgotten about.
And we're not game. I mean, I think if you play a game for 2 or 3 months, a board game, you've done it. Crudely, you played it through. This is a hobby game. We can see tournaments in 2 years' time, 3 years' time.
Yeah.
We don't think this will be. It will never be. The smallest day will be yesterday. This could grow and grow and grow. And of course, then when people pick this up and try it, and I'm sure we've all got our stories about how we're here today. Once you've come in with one and you enjoy that, you have a look. And then that ethos of simplicity, clean play, games that you can play and afford and buy different armies and scale up and huge battles starts coming through.
Goes beyond. Oh, sorry.
Fanatic, fast, funny games.
Yeah.
3
So yeah, you know, and I think it's going to be. Hopefully, this is the one that we've learned to learn in the last couple of years. We can say right from day one, it's there.
Yeah.
Kings of War took us 3 years before we were confident enough to put a hardback book down and say, all right, that's a game. We think that can, you know, stay in the room with the £800 gorilla. You know, let's be honest, there is an absolute dominant player out there. You know, there is a Microsoft, and actually, I think we're not going to be another operating system. We are, you know, hopefully Google. We're coming at it from a wholly different way and trying to do something in a way that unlocks a piece of the thing that isn't currently done. What's that?
Cutting edge attitude as well goes beyond just gaming as well. You know, you think about the miniatures involved. The miniatures are jaw-dropping. You know, it's not just a gaming community that's getting the buzz out of this as well. Because obviously my niche is painting, and I'm getting approached by painters as well, asking me what the models are like to paint. So not only are you going to see fantastically painted models out there, because there's some good painters that are painting for other companies at the moment. You know, they're interested and they've pledged. You know, so what else are you going to get? Are you going to get, you know, fantastically crafted bases, you know, little dioramas and what have you, things that tell a narrative, things that are beyond just.
Well, you see some things from Blood Bowl. The pitch is just amazing. People in the stadium and arenas, but already 2 people in here have been. I'm doing this one with this. It's there, and because the quality, there's an Iron Man. Has anyone seen the way the guy did gold and red? You know, but you're getting top quality painters picking these things up now.
You'll see them on Cool Mini. People, putting 10 quality paint jobs on Cool Mini of Dreadball figures.
And so when you can do the painters who take painting beyond what you can imagine, and gamers who are really enjoying playing the game and will set up and run leagues for you, and club people who take it to their clubs and start a league game, because it's a great game they do that, because they're great miniatures they do that, and suddenly you get those heights that inspire all the rest of us who can't do any of the things quite as well as the others.
There's a major Blood Bowl tournament as well. They actively want Dreadball to be demoed at their tournament essentially this year. It's no small tournament. That excites me a lot, to be honest.
So has there been any talk of Warpath and Kings of War? Is it all
Did
been...
that?
Did you get it?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, that's very generous. Normally he just sits here and just goes Pandora, Dwarf King's Herald, Dreadball. So,
what's your favourite Dreadball team out of the ones so far?
You looking at me? One of the things I wrote on my blog was an article. I do lots of sort of stuff about design theory and so on. And one of the things I wrote is about loving them all equally. And I think, in terms of design, if I have a favourite when I'm designing, it's very difficult to say, well, am I giving them more? You know, am I making them artificially better, or am I making them worse because I'm worried about making them artificially better? And so what I tend to do is I do my best to find the interesting bit for each side and run with that. So when I'm writing the background, when I'm writing the character of them, I try to really kind of mine that excitement that I have about whatever bit about them I found exciting. So in that sense, I then find when it's finished, it's like I then go, well, which one do I like best? And I go, well, they're really good because of this, and I really like them because they got this cool thing, and I don't really know is the answer.
So when we do
probably the next one, is, whichever one we haven't done yet. So
when I talk with Jake about the teams that are coming up, particularly with the Kickstarter when it starts going up, we haven't concepted all the teams. We knew there's more. We would be talking. There's 2 things. There's the look, and sometimes the look drives a team, and another times
But what happens is, I know when Jake's got it, because all of a sudden he goes, well, these robots, they transform, they start as jacks and they do this and this and this, which for us was an absolute nightmare, because how do you sculpt something that changes? So, but then of course we go back to him and say, we've got this great picture, you know, that's the team. No, that's the team. And then 2 days later he comes, well, you see, there's 10 of them. And they run around like this, and you go, okay, he's got it. And it's a kind of creative process, but I can tell with Jake when he likes it, because there's one, I think, that's going to teleport. You know,
To be as even as possible, because that way I can design a better game of it.
The answer for me is, I'm wearing a t-shirt, I painted the team, I'm hugging a dice and a bag full of the same models.
so he likes the vermin.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, and me can almost matches.
It's his colour.
Corporation made me do it.
Sponsors.
Good question though. Yeah. So, yeah.
On one of the forum posts recently, you were saying that you're looking into materials for vehicles for Warpath.
Indeed.
Can you shed any light on that? What sort of things you're looking at?
Yeah, hard plastic.
String?
String, some figures. Hard plastic sprues. Crudely, I think they've got to be. CAD designed, straight line work. I'd love to put them out at like 12 quid for a tank, 12 quid for a flyer, or something bonkers like that. Nice size, interact with units. I mean, the vision for Warpath is that 100 figures, 200 figure games, and flyers and tanks to go with every army. You know, and each one has a really interesting angle that it can come at from, so we could really run that through the design process. 2 new armies and a hardback book by the end of the next year. So yeah, I think we will.
Feet on desks then.
And then that's it. Then we're done. Three systems. Yeah, so it'll be quiet 6 months. We've just got 22 units for Kings of War, 12 teams for Dreadball, and 3 armies. 2 armies and flyers and tanks for Warpath. But yeah, I think they've got to be straight line design CAD, and they've got to be. I think they've got to be hard plastic. Go there, and then we'll go there.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of touched on this earlier, but obviously Bane mentioned obviously Dreadball and now Dreadball are partially influenced Warpath, presumably with Kickstarter. You said you come from classic teams, obviously. And that kind of fits in with Warpath. And a lot of the newer stuff has gone more from a kind of fantasy and space sort of look to a more high sci-fi. Are there many problems with kind of continuing keeping everything a similar kind of visual theme between everything, especially moving on to Warpath? There's kind of risk involved there of sort of, you know, making for example, the June 1 race if it were to happen, you are very, you know, obviously very sci-fi, still fitting on the tables or something like that.
But I think what you've got here is partly it's got this one of those wonderful glowy somebody else's problem field around it. So it's kind of that in some ways is a job for sculptors to make that, you know, be cool and look good. But you've also got the idea that if Dreadball is sort of World Wrestling Federation razzmatazz showbiz spectacle, they deliberately put things in caricature sort of outfits to make, you know, the bad guys come on in black outfits with bad hats and the crowd all boos. You know, it's not subtle. You know, we don't need to be. So in some ways, I think the fact that the orcs and goblins are a bit more rough and ready and they look a bit more primitive suits them compared to the Toronto 29ers who are all high end, you know, proper power, you know, suits of armour and whatnot, and the Dread One who are lithe and long and but also they come from different cultures. And that's what they're doing really. They're doing it's like when you see the sort of people in national costume. They don't match. They don't look right, but you know that the guy in the lederhosen is Austrian, and you know, and so on. It's a part of the kind of caricature that makes the character of the team for the spectacle that is the game.
Just because we become familiar, we start to buy into characters and the way they interact with other characters as well in the universe. You know, they'll all start to absorb the Warpath universe. Essentially, they not only will be made for Warpath, but Warpath will start to be made for them as well. It all starts to organically influence each other as well. I have no doubt that the flavour of Warpath will be across the board seeped into everything we do. Why is that? It's because everybody is enthusiastic about it. Oh, you guys are enthusiastic about it. You talk, we listen.
Well, I think the interesting thing maybe when you talk about the Warpath universe, it's almost, there's three levels of how the universe is built. There's a co-prosperity sphere where everything is shiny and wonderful, and on a Monday night we play Dreadball. You know, Monday night Dreadball, and the world, and there was a picture up on the Facebook a couple of days ago. There was the stadium floating in the sky with the taxis coming in, and that's what that world's going to be like. You know, there's no poverty, everything is absolutely perfect. This is where the elite live, and it's a wonderful place.
Fantastic in itself.
Yeah,
it really is.
Well, that guy is doing heaps of the new. We're going to do a load of Dreadball art, and nearly the whole day, half full, and yeah, and then he's going to go on to Warpath, and that is the the Federalist, the Council of Seven that sit at the top are all powerful. They live in offices that float above the world, and it's very high tech. Everything they want is there. The enforcers are their army, which are very clean. You come down a level, your corporation have the corporations have the corporation armies, where they're not quite as well kitted out, they're not quite as sleek. And if you go out to this kind of worlds that sit around the edge, it might be an agricultural world where the food is made. And what you'll find is green and pleasant land with just scout buggies flying over the top. But there will be a barracks. And that's where these will come out from, come back to, and if there's any kind of trouble, everybody dies. You know, these guys, the corporation will turn up against civilians, and the corporation's not a nice place. You know, it's perfect but if you step out of line, you're going to find out what it's like. You get out to the outer tier, this high-tech world is now a long, long way away. This is the planets where the vermin have taken over. This is the planets that the Forge Fathers own and run. This is where orcs have taken up settlements and are running pirates out of there. This is a plague world. And suddenly all those other interesting angles can feed in and can mesh. And it's actually where they clash that it becomes exciting. Because the vermin are scavengers, and they're picking up bits and cobbling it together in the engine rooms of the ships that are flying around, the cargo ships. I think the rebel army is going to have older generation equipment, so it's going to be less effective, it's going to be more rounded, it's going to be more dated compared to the uber slick, really high tech sci-fi that you're going to be seeing in the Enforcers. So I think it's going to run as a theme, and very much each army, we're actually allocating a sculptor to each army now as well. So Bob will continue with the Forge Fathers, which are probably our most gothic of all of them, because they kind of live aside and they're still really from that mining background. They are still miners and forges that make the equipment that they sell at the top end. I've described the corporation, the vermin, the orcs, which were the mercenary band that were actually taken into the corporation and used, and then thought, that we're mercenaries. And so each one has a style, and I think that will come together. But I think rather than clash, I think it will. Correct. But at its core is a very, very, very high-tech, hard sci-fi world. And that's what we're going with.
Tell us what's next for Kings of War.
After the humans? Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the next big army is the human good army. I think they're called the Brazilians, actually, from the Celestials. Brazilians, yeah. Brazilians. I play well, 4-4-2. And there's basically in Kings of War, there's three poles, polar extremities, and they are good, bad, evil, and nature. And the interesting one is, well, what's the difference between good and nature? Well, the good is there. It's all about collectivism. It's about behaving in a certain fashion that is good. And if you step outside of that, they don't like it much. Actually, evil is absolutely self-centered behaviour, that you do exactly what you please in whichever way you do it, and that can manifest its way in demons and satanics. Nature is the planet itself is the important part, and how you draw, and it must be an equilibrium and balance. So how will these two fight? Well, the good guys will look at what the bad guys are doing and say, look at them doing that, it's shocking, and say, right, we're going to go in there, burn that forest, put that dam up, build a big wall across there, collapse that mountain, and then kill them all. And nature will say, I'm sorry, what did you say you're going to do? Yeah, that's our forest. It's not yours. We don't care about your gods. That's our forest. Leave it alone or we'll kill you. So the elves are the interesting one, because they're on that spectrum of, at one end, the high elves, the elves we have at the moment, are very much the forces of good. This is how it's done. As you come across, the kind of wood elf style is very much more where they live at one in harmony. And then you can say, okay, how does that interact? Well, the druids will raise elementals. So their magic source will be wind elementals, water elementals, fire elementals. They're using the elements as their core. And then as the armies spin out. So actually the undead is along that spectrum, very much towards the evil, but it draws its power from the ground. The magic is about using the earth's power. But instead of it being in equilibrium, it just takes. We're going to raise them up out of the ground, we're going to use them against you. So, you know, it's a really, I think it's an interesting dynamic. And originally the plan was to wade straight into the, do the good, which is going to be a wonderful army. You know, the angels, the paladins, the knights, the cat cavalry, men-at-arms. Was probably to go to their antagonist, which is the kind of evil army. But the more I talk about the elementals and druids, yeah,
squirrel swarms are just going to be
killer squirrel swarms. That kind of intrigues me. It's going to be one of those two. When we've got something really strong to do, I think it comes from there. This one's going to be the first full army we've done for a couple of years for Kings of War. And I think it's going to look beautiful. We're going to have it, you know, white and gold painted army. It's got a really interesting dynamic. But again, should people be playing other gaming systems, they'll be able to pick it up and cross it back across there. But we're now already starting to say about what we're trying to define. As you know, the humans can live anywhere in that triangle. You have bad humans, you have good humans, you can have the nature of humans. But where we're coming from is with a strong design aesthetic about that army. And I think increasingly, as we get bigger and as a gaming system gets bigger, we can be braver. So that's a long answer, so which one? Nature or evil.
Have you got a time frame on, obviously you touched on the plastic vehicles for Warpath, have you got a time frame on doing scenery for Kings of War?
Scenery would be, I think what's going to happen is we've just done a lot of Kings of War work, and that's going to come out over the course of next year. Then we are going to do obviously a load of Dreadpool, then we're going to get that done, and we're using the next space then to go into Warpath. And I think we'll do the Warpath scenery, Warpath flyers and vehicles around the middle of next year, and then I suspect we'd come back to the second army for Kings of War and Kings of War scenery as a following release. So probably end of next year before you'll be seeing that on shelves or coming. But
with the Basilians, is the intention for the army list of that to go in the Kings and Legends book, or is there going to be something else for that?
There's another book which we haven't quite named the title for, but they're going to be in that book. And what we're going to do with that book is put in
Angels, Demons and Jokers.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. Angels and Demons, I think some of the Dreadpool labelled that before. But loads of background. Because we've developed, we've started developing the world in the hardback book, and people loved that, and we knew it was something we always wanted to get to do. But each of our expansions now are going to be taking an area in a race and going to the next level of definition and padding it out and explaining it. And so, if our undead was some models without a game, by the time you're going to get to the human army, it's very much going to be this is how they live. But then we could also drift into some of the other humans. I might go and kind of get some of there's some great plastics historicals out there, collect them up into boxes and say, look, this is if you just want to play a straight cavalry army, here's how you do it. If you want to play a Norman army, here's how you do it. And we could put some heroes for them and use other companies' plastics, and either we'll bundle them together or distribute them out. And because there are a few out there, the human army is not going to be this is humans. The one we're doing is one of 50 human armies. And actually, I'd love to do some more very evil, or maybe evil units. You see how the elves wouldn't necessarily be a wood elf army; it would be the animals and everything. So we can start developing. Each and every book is an opportunity to go back there. So perhaps that angel book becomes more about humans living in the King's world, and we could do 100 pages of background on it.
Is there not a temptation, saying, you know, this is now being a system and not potentially being built to use other systems anymore, to kind of challenge some of those ideas that all of them are evil? Where you've got this book.
Second person today. Yeah.
It's a very people are very pro undead today. Someone this morning was saying that undead could be good.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, there we are.
All right.
Nature, interestingly, it stopped me in its tracks because actually that's where because undead is definitely the actual idea of zombies being raised out of the woods and being part of a good army, painted up in green, and that it's kind of weird, but yeah, I could kind of get there. It's almost
always there. It's like, you know, undead are evil, orcs are evil, but not necessarily. I mean, obviously, you know, you're creating your own world. You have to follow the steps.
No, exactly. And I think I could certainly get as far as there could be some kind of a magic spell that allows them to, as a druid, raise up undead. But then, you know, at the end of them, they bury them again. It's almost the necromantic army is evil because it's driven by the necromancer. It's an ego trip, essentially. The necromancer is bidding his will on an army.
It's like using the tool.
Yeah,
essentially, isn't it?
Correct. And so I think I could certainly get there. Whether we actually go as far as that when we got hammered when we tried to reuse some of our more screws and warpaths. So whether we tried putting our zombies into a hippie army, we might get battered. So
yeah, the cops coming after you, scary either way.
Yeah.
But then
necromancy being evil, I mean that's generally the fantasy idea that it needs to, because power tends to corrupt. But the concept of wanting to elongate one's life to help others, which is the basis behind necromancy, is elongating life. That's not necessarily evil in the base element.
Misunderstood.
Yeah, I'm very misunderstood. I dedicated my life to living longer, and anyone that gets in my way dies. You know, I agree with that. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting. I think that's one of the things that I want to encourage is we will never fully populate the world. There is going to be no way of this is how it's done. And actually, I think the whole point, and particularly if we do the crazy bags and we do those big RTE boxes, which have got 30 figures in for 30 quid, is you can cut them up, you can convert. And I think if our rule system is open source, we're actually going to be signing a Creative Commons agreement to allow people to use the mini rule book and develop their own rule sets on it. There's already quite a lot of self-generated army lists, and I would love to see. I mean, someone did someone did a wonderful kind of undead army with the pumpkin jack-o'-lantern stuff. It was just inspiring, and I'd love to see people picking up on. We did the nature army and incorporating those zombies because they're not expensive to grab a big unit of those and paint them up and convert them and model them. And I think everyone can add their own spin onto what we're trying to create. We're gonna build the structure of the house, but we're not going to fill it. Your imagination fills it. The reason it's called Kings of War is you're the king. It's not this is this guy, this is that guy, this is that one. These are the head powers. No. These are the things that exist. He's there, but actually your army is your army. And you create it how you want. We do 2 more and then we're done, so I'll come to him.
You said earlier the background for all 3 sort of worlds are there to be sort of populated. Is there going to be the opportunity for fans to write fiction and what have you?
Ask him.
We had the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we've already started. I mean, some people do it through paint schemes. Yeah. Some people do it through words. Some people do it, through game mechanics or modelling. Because we made it a big world with little detail. What we are going to get into novels, and we've got one being created through the last Kickstarter. But very much want to do it. What we're almost going to get them to do each one is to create their own characters that live in the world. So the world is that city is now there. You can't move that city.
and I think the authors are very comfortable with that. But actually, you can populate this space, particularly on a micro basis, and you can populate it with characters because things just change around. So as long as you don't say the desert's suddenly cold and that the city's been burned down, but you can create 2 or 3 of your own cities in that map, in this area, and then damage and deal with those.
You get the impression that the humans and that sort of
They're
municipalities.
Yeah, correct. Like, think of the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Now, the Holy Roman Empire, there was 365 states in Germany.
Yeah.
Italy there was a king of Naples. There was there was the Palatinate states. You go up to the north. Wherever there's mining to be done, wherever there's trade to be had, the elves will create. So there's not going to be any one. That's where they live. Well, I guess there's no. The timeline's quite sketchy at the moment as well, which allows people to fit it in whenever they like, as well as wherever. And so while we've started to piece them together, and our own in-house guys will eventually, I know what will happen is there will end up being a timeline. I'm purposely avoiding, an overly dramatic timeline now. I think it locks down so much, and I don't think we're quite ready to go into that space yet. I'd much rather talk about A, now, and B, let's talk about humans. Let's talk about how they live in that space and how they interact, because there's thousands of fascinating stories there. There's thousands of kings, dukes, barons. Some are good, some are bad. Some think they're good but actually bad. Some are, by the deed shall you know them. There's great stories there, and I think however they come about, as it comes about into novels, and the world is getting to a place where we've got to deal with a digital company that can print on demand, and I think is it feasible that fan fiction? Is it feasible that we could have a full-time editor here who goes through and makes sure that they haven't overstepped the mark or just tweak things back and go back and say, look, that paragraph is clashing with that? Yeah, that's very feasible. In the next year or two, we have a full-time editor that puts it up and says, another book up there. At the same time, it's also feasible we could go to professional writers and say, come on, write a couple of novels. There's a good few now.
If that's your ambition as well, I think one of the best ways, and again I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but one of the best ways of getting your own background fiction is to run campaigns and play games and get the entire community involved by keeping blogs and promoting promoting your blog and getting people involved in an interactive way. And across the board, you're creating epic stories, you're creating small stories, and then to a degree you can pick and choose from the inspirations, the best parts, or the grisliest parts, whatever it is you need to do, and that's growing the hobby as well.
Magician was written as a role play book. Have you ever read Magician? Raymond D. Feist book. It's a good book. It's good scrapbook. And they role played that, and he then almost rewrote it as a novel. It was Finite Games. He taught things about.
Doing it that way as well, like in the community, benefits on many levels as well. It doesn't just feed the background; it feeds the business, it feeds our imagination, it feeds the game, it feeds everything across the board when we start to expand. So I'd say make that happen. It's alright to be self-indulgent about things. It's like me painting. If I sat in my room and just painted and then came out and shared anything paint-wise, well, actually, what am I doing? I'm sat there just going, and that's me done. I'm sorted. I'm alright, Jack. But actually, in the end, I become stale, and through passing on my skills, I actually then begin to learn more about how to improve my own skills, and then I pass that on more, and everything across the board, using that analogy applied to background, just begins to grow for the good of everybody.
There's already named characters starting to appear that were fan generated. And obviously the Kickstarter allowed us to actually put some of those up and say, come on, come in and be part of it. And I hope it doesn't stop. Really comes about.
Grow it, spread the word.
Well, I think.
We've got 2 of them. Didn't we have one more question?
Yeah, got it. That's what.
Couple actually. Touching on what you were saying earlier about using historical companies' products to box them up for King's War. Would that knock over on your designing process? So when you're designing your human range, will you make them so they're to a certain degree compatible with other ranges in the market so you can hit them?
Oh, I see. Do you mean like the cutting space?
Well,
Generally, so
when I go to the other side, plug on, and probably the main thing would be the way the the zombies went together with the Second World War Germans, because they had the same way they fitted together.
Yeah.
You can kit bash them really well.
I think plastic is easy to kit bash. I think the short answer to that is no. I'm just going to do exactly what I want to do that makes brilliant figures. But plastic is really easy. I mean, you look at someone's just picked up a corporation army and a load of undead stuff, and just started putting together some kind of traitor guard unit. And because plastic is very easy to cut and model with, whereas metal never was, and there's obvious places where you make changes. Here. So, even though John independently designed those Germans and added my zombies, the most important thing is scale. If your scale's kind of similar, now we're just going to put ours out our scale, but because ours is a little bit more realistic scale, it instantly is already more compatible with historical stuff. So I think we've got to do what's right for our figures as we come to them and look at them, and we always try and keep them so they're 2 to 3 piece, not 15 or 20, because you do 200 of them, you can get pretty fed up pretty quick. But at the same time, I think I may well look at a Norman army and say, well, you know what, these 3 figures would look great with that. And I think I've got an old metal Norman army now. Well, that would really work well. And so I could take the plastics and add the heroic angles, add a guy on a bear to lead it. In those cases, I absolutely would mesh them seamlessly with that army. Or maybe a load of heads. Do these heads and then I'll do that with them.
The other thing I was thinking as well is obviously with Warpath, the initial burst on it was fancy in space. We're going to see some of that retro thing, so we get vermin popping up in King's War.
Watch this space.
I thought that.
It's not. I can tell you, it's not bang on the plans right now. But there's other things that we could come back to and do.
Potentially, if they share the same universe, though, shit crashes.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think with the Abyss, the way that things can come out of that and creatures, there's tons of stuff to come. I think if we thought there was something interesting to say about them, it's an obvious place to go to. Any more? Go on, Em.
Is there any possibility of something like a big kind of national summer campaign, or even international summer campaign, where everyone's playing games that sort of fed into a final result that determines something about the universe or the world?
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. And I think once we can get... The interesting thing is, once you've got the 3 gaming systems out, you can develop them. And it's taken us 3 years to get our Kings of War book out, and now you can see, we can come back to the Kingdoms of Men. Because the world is set, there's a map, you can just start populating it, and you can start putting layer and layer of background and depth in. And I think, we can do some tournaments, and the other thing I'd love to do, and used to organise those back in GW, was exactly those summer campaigns. I think we need to be a bit bigger. I think we need more people playing our games more often. But yeah, I think everything's possible. And for us, particularly with retail stores that are never going to be our own shops, having a common theme. So say we do some, let's say in summer 2014 we do Kings of War scenery. If we are 3 times or 4 times as big and we're in 400 retailers, to go to all them and say, this is what's happening this summer, and the castle coming out, and here is a siege rules, and here's a gaming things, and actually on the final weekend this weekend we're going to have an open day here, there's going to be 500 people, we're going to play a massive siege battle, we're going to have everybody's goodies on this side, baddies on that side, that's going to be, you all play it too, and whoever wins, wins, and we have some fairly straightforward, wow. And that doesn't matter if you're in a retail store in Australia or America or Mansfield. Once we build a community, then anything's possible, because as a company it just gives us the money, what we're going to do, and apply it straight back in and do fun things with it. And at some point what you don't need is more miniatures. What you need is participation and interaction.
Passion only comes from us.
Yeah,
that's it, and pushing that on.
Yeah, I think as there's more people doing it, we can act as the composer to make the activity happen. Ultimately, what happens is whether you guys pick up on it and do it. I think 2 or 3 more years. I think it'll happen with Dreadball first.
I was going to say, I think that comes back when we were talking before you got here about Dreadball, and we were saying that later saying about leaving the space for people to do it. I think we'll find that Dreadball is where that starts.
Because it's just
easy. an easy way in for a tournament. It's an easy way in for really, for an international organisation. Playing World Cup equivalents with Dreadball is relatively straightforward, and you can see how you would organise that. It would be just the same as any other event, except people come from wherever they want to join in. So you can kind of do that. It's slightly more straightforward because of the format, because of the style of the game, and so on. And I think that when people get used to that concept, then it can easily be taken across to Warpath and Misery.
Yeah, same thing for me about Dreadball is it's like a redwood seed, tiny, but potential for it just to keep going and going up. Because of the diversity you've put in there as well.
Well, and it could be a game that we could respec it, and it could be next to the Monopoly. 6 figures, a paper ball where they fold it out, a travel version. Not in our hobby stores, but in terms of bringing people to it. That says okay, and then it goes on from here. And I don't know, that's what I was standing in the shower saying. That maybe a computer game will come out. I could see it working wonderfully as a computer game. That raises a profile that then says, house person, we want to do this. So actually we'll take that out, this out. But that, as a board game, is an enjoyable board game experience. And as soon as they got it, they'll go, I love this, tell me more. And then they'll come to the proper game. But there is ways we can go out. As that community grows, as the business grows, the opportunities to do funky things. We've got some mad ideas for online communities is very much where we see our future.
Frankly, I mean, what I'd like to see you do is start selling your stuff through Model Zone. For the simple reason that the situation I find myself in now is that in my lunch break at work, I can walk to Games Workshop and pick up paint and stuff that I need, and I can't do that with your stuff. And if there's a Model Zone in walking distance, that would be brilliant.
And the managers of Model Zone have told the bosses of Model Zone buy this stuff. We've gone along and said we'll run demos, we'll give you a dedicated display, and just talk to them and say, Mark, we've got to open Model Zone. This man has a store near him, it's a Model Zone. So because it could give us our retail chain across the UK, and then we want to do one in Australia, we want to do one in America, and say, come on, take us. I think our offer is becoming more compelling. With the hardback book, when Warpath gets there, the work we're doing with Dreadball and the clarity with how we're able to present it is getting us closer and closer to that day. The retail chains can pick us up and no, chuck that out, take this, and we won't do it as we will.
Anyway, yes.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Great stuff.